How's everybody doing?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Doing good. You?
Awesome, awesome.
Sweet.
Eagles won the Super Bowl, so I think when I sent that last message out, I was hoping for a win, and said see you guys at the parade. So, but
No, definitely. It was been a good week, 2 weeks for Philly.
yeah, it certainly has. I don't know if you guys did. Anybody get a chance to review what he sent out? I kind of did.
I did.
hmm
Yeah.
I have it up as well, so I can. I'm not the greatest reader, but I could read it if need be.
Did anyone not read it? I guess we should
I
first
I mean
confirm.
I skimmed through it, so
Okay.
yeah.
Well, it sounds like out of the seven candidates, we just have to go through, I guess, the pros and cons of each one and see which one we feel as a group
Yeah,
best
I thought
fits.
what
Yeah.
what I noticed was, sorry to cut you off. That's
No, it's okay.
I feel like that's one of the characteristics in the book chapter I just read. Shoot. Um, I thought because they gave almost like they gave like how old they were, which I didn't know they delve into like personal lives when you pick a CEO, but they did here. So they said, their education, how old they were, their political leanings, anything that I guess, background, like, or how they were liked or what they specialized in. So it kind of set it for each one. So I was thinking, I don't know if that's how we could go through it. Like, I don't know if it's better to go through and list out what everyone, this one's 6 years old, male, white, 25 years with the company, BA, or it's better to first go through and like maybe just say, oh, definitely not this person or this person and narrow it down that way. Those are my ideas.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great idea, and I think maybe also keep in consideration what we feel that this company needs in a strong CEO. Based on what's going on, and what they're kind of looking to do in the future. That's how
Yes.
I kind of looked at it as well.
And then I just wanted to ask when they said so the chairman of the board deals with relationships, well, long range policy and relationships with the financial committee. So the CEO must be someone who can marshal the human and other resources so that its mission is fulfilled. So they're not looking for someone, they're not going to deal with really financial, I guess, as much. They want someone who can fulfill this mission of expanding to other markets. Is that the understanding?
I That's how I like understand it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when I looked at when I just read each of their bios, like some of the cons that just kind of jumped right out at me, you know. Um,
Yeah,
histories of excessive drinking, like things like that. As soon as I saw that, I automatically like kind of just said, "All right, this guy's probably not the best candidate." Um,
Well, yeah.
like personal life of instability, things like that. I don't,
mhm.
Yeah,
maybe
I
it's a
saw,
biased look at the way I looked at it, but I
no,
automatically went with the cons, and I kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
Agreed.
highlighted the cons also. Like number six, he pilots his own, I mean, that's not a huge, I don't know if it's a huge con, but he pilots his own plane, and I feel like that's dangerous, but is that too much? Um, like you said, number two becomes extremely intoxicated off the job. Guess that's not good. But then I saw number three, likes motorcycles. I'm like, oh, that's kind of dangerous. So I don't know if I was going too far.
yeah,
I
I
agreed
mean,
with both of your assessments.
yeah,
Number seven, I don't, I just, I know his father co-founded is it Airsopac? But I don't know. He was removed from his position previously with the company. And then he's twice gone on unpaid leave to travel. So I don't know but he does know a lot of cultures, and he knows the president. But I thought that that was really kind of spotty, like he wouldn't be dependable.
I thought the same thing. He also has a history of alcoholism. He's got skin cancer. Although it said that it's under control, but I
Yeah.
think when I read a lot of these, it seems like they're looking for somebody that's healthy, that somebody's going to be in it for the long haul as well. Um,
Yep,
Hmm.
I
Which,
yeah.
agree.
I'm sorry. I hate Zoom. Talking to talk over each
Yeah.
other. Like, number one, I was like, okay, I don't know how old is too old to become a CEO. So this guy is 60. So that's not old, I guess, for a CEO. But he recently bought a second home in Tucson. So I was like, oh, is he planning on retiring? I don't know. That's just what I where I came up with that, I don't know.
And he may have a potential distraction because he's looking to seek, a cabinet
Yes.
appointment. And even though he's 60, I mean, he is close to retirement age if you consider, 65, 67,
Mhm.
And he,
retirement. That's how I kind of gauged some of these guys.
oh, and
Um,
it says he's been 25 years with the company. So yeah, he may be close to retirement.
I actually thought the best guy was Franklin
Oh, me
Cavender.
too.
He, in my opinion, I think he had the most. He had limited operational experience. The only negative thing I could really find on him was the unknown health status. But they could easily just do a physical on him and just see you know if there's any issues. I mean, I'm sure he wouldn't oppose to that, but um,
Yeah.
I
he was sought after for counsel by top managers. He's highly intelligent. He has finance and strategic planning exercise expertise. He stood out to me.
Me too. And when they say CEO would be the capstone of his career, would that mean like that's just what he wants to do, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I
So like
took
it,
that as like that's a goal, his ultimate goal, and if he achieved that, then he's. I don't think he would be a slouch on the job.
and he has an MBA from Harvard. The only thing I said, which, all right, he likes motorcycles, so maybe we'd have to ask him to not ride the
I
motorcycle.
I think it's
Yeah.
kind of cool. He's got a little edge to him too, maybe.
Oh,
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I thought more for like safety issues.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
um, do we think any problem with his wife being a television newscaster with a national reputation? Like, I don't know if that plays into it at all. Like,
Mhm.
does
I
that
don't
matter
know.
at all?
I thought it was in the. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go. You go.
No, I mean, I just don't think how that like would affect
Okay.
his position. But I mean, if you have any other ideas,
I wasn't sure.
I was just gonna piggyback and say like it's independent of him, like what their spouses are, because I personally thought Joan was really good.
Those are
Um,
my two picks.
I thought I know they mentioned her husband being part of a well-known West Coast family, but it was independent of that, So that's where I thought she was like really good. She's active, has a lot of experience in aviation, and
mhm.
even at the federal level. So
Speaks Japanese.
Yep,
and
which yeah.
and she was kind of in the middle. So she's like conservative Democrat. They said kind of in the middle, dresses conservative, kind of plays like the middle of the pack that can like help bridge different departments. I thought personally, I thought Joan was great, but I think Franklin is just as qualified at that point.
It was between the two for me. I couldn't decide who should be first, who should be second. Um, but I also thought, and again, I don't know what CEOs like. I know what they do. I don't know how much access they have to money. Like her husband is a multimillionaire, so she's not. And again, I know it's her husband who's separate from her, but maybe she's not worried about money. Whereas number six, Fulmer, he's reports being in debt because of divorce. I don't know if
Mhm.
that plays an issue or not, but it was something to think about for me. But
Have to be seen as a security risk, especially if you're working that high up in a company, you gotta have some kind of a security clearance. And if you're in debt, then that's a flag.
Does,
Um,
does does she have airline experience though? Like I have a note here that she has
he was, oh, head of the Federal Aviation
FAA.
Agency for
yeah.
3 years.
the FAA.
Yeah.
All right, so then she does have experience. Yeah,
Um,
she would be good too. I I have next to her name like legal regulatory expertise, high energy, innovative, extensive international experience, and fluency in Japan and Japanese.
yeah, I
Hmm.
have she's high energy. She's we don't know her health status, but she jogs 2 miles a day, speaks Japanese, traveled to 52 countries, millionaire husband, uh, innovative, well liked. 3 years at the FAA, and she was a corporate counsel. And she went to Vassar. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't, what is an LLB? I didn't know that off the top of my head. Or an so LLB and LLM from Yale and NYU. Law degrees?
I thought it
Okay.
was a master's in law and bachelor's in law.
That's okay.
That's what I thought. I could be wrong.
And she, I guess I hate to say, like, they put the children in there, and I saw like 5 under 15 for Bennett, and I was like, oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
She had one child at West Point, conservative Democrat.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think if you go with the cons for Franklin and Joanne, I think they're the best 1-2 punch.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree also.
And I know we weren't supposed to do that much, but I had some time in between work and this, so I think made this chart with all their,
Oh my God, you're
Cool.
awesome.
just so I could read it off easier because I didn't know how, sometimes I don't talk at all in these meetings, and obviously now I'm like talking a lot, but just so I could be prepared. But
I thought Fulmer was actually not bad either. John Arthur Fulman. I know he had a past heart attack, which kind of
Mhm.
raised some concerns.
my
I think
thought was, I don't know what they mean by almost to the point that he is bigger than life.
That agreed. That was what stood out to me. And the crown prince part also concerned me of like him like a little bit too like arrogance almost.
like a prima donna almost.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where
like
it's
he
like
expects it. And then
exactly.
he's a citizen of New Zealand. I don't know if that really matters or not because they are trying to get into other countries. So I don't know if that's good, but he plans to become an American citizen. There's so much extra in there that I'm
Hmm.
like, are these like trying to throw us off?
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to say what's the cons and the pros for some of this.
Again,
Like,
Yeah.
pilots his own plane, I'm being safety conscious.
yeah, I mean, for me, I put it was a con. He was a non-U.S. citizen since it's a U.S. based company, but
Yeah.
he was planning to become one. It said there. I
Hmm.
think I wrote down.
I
Um,
thought the debt was the big issue for
Yeah.
me.
yeah,
Uh,
the instability with his finances. Yeah,
yeah,
Mhm.
because with security clearances and stuff, that was already said, already mentioned. So that was like kind of like a removal for me. But his experience in traveling and stuff, so he knows the area well based on his experience.
So Cavender, his career as a financial and strategic planner with 4 years exposure to operations. So he has the experience, right? Being a strategic planner. I don't know. I'm assuming. I'm trying to look at what their career, like their knowledge is.
yeah. It said something about him sought after for counsel by top managers.
Yeah.
Um,
I just want to make sure like we're picking like the person also has the right background, like experience. So definitely Bernardo, see Bernardo. As long as you can pass that physical. And then, yeah, I guess Cavender. Is there
well,
anyone?
I definitely don't think Edgerton. I didn't think him at all. He just completed psychoanalysis. I mean,
Yeah, what did
to
that
me,
like? What
Hmm.
was that about?
I just think it. When I first read it, I thought, does he have issues with his, emotional or mental stability? I don't know.
Well, his family was interned in World War II in the Philippines, so I was like, goodness.
And I thought he had. I think some of these guys with the political aspirations,
Yeah.
I
Oh, it's right.
thought
Yeah.
He
maybe
ran.
they wouldn't be all, sold into the CEO position if they're looking elsewhere to be.
Or could they be influenced?
That too. That too. That's a great point.
Yeah.
So Cavender, who did we say again? Cavender is independent but takes a liberal
Well,
position.
well, we have to pick two. I think we have
Yeah,
to
and
pick.
DiBernardo's conservative. Oh, and Cavender is for diversity. Cavender is a black male and
Mm-hmm.
42. DiBernardo is a white female.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't even wasn't really totally looking at that at this point. And Cavender's one of the younger ones too, but he seems if we go off what he said, and he says the CEO would be the capstone of his career, he could be, unless something happens, he could be the CEO for a long time.
Yeah, I think those two are
Mm-hmm.
good choices also, because I think there was a section where it said that the Airsopac, they've worked hard to build a strong record in equal employment opportunity
Yeah.
and affirmative action. So I think DEI remains one of their core values. So um, uh, I think that's another reason why these two picks would be fantastic. Just deciding on who goes one and who goes two. I would guess because we have to come up with an alternative if I guess one gets sick or dies or.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're coming to a decision too quick.
Yeah.
It's only been 20 minutes.
Um,
Yeah. I don't know. Like, does anyone have someone else that we haven't considered, maybe? Or are we looking at the wrong things? Someone disagrees.
I don't think so. I mean, I personally don't think so. I think they're all high performing individuals. Obviously, they've
Hmm.
gotten this far in their careers, and they have. It seems like they've accomplished quite a bit, each of them. But they all have their little nuances of things that just like kind of stand out, and you're like, ugh. Um, the only two that really don't are Franklin and Joanne. I can't
mm-hmm.
really see a lot of super cons that would just like throw them off. Um,
Now, I didn't think Andrews was bad, the number one, right? I mean, that's just, I still would pick the other two, but I
yeah,
thought
the
he
the
was
only
a
thing I have with him is just he's nearing retirement age,
requirement.
really, and
Yeah.
he's another one that's potentially looking to seek a position in the government, which
Oh, he is?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Cabinet
And
position.
and I really like Christine how you brought that up that they may be influenced, and I didn't even think of that, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that could be something that perhaps the board of directors. I mean, if we put ourselves in the board of directors positions.
Yeah. I mean, they're at the end of the day, they're all well educated, accomplished, but it's more of what separates them are the cons, as you were saying, Chris. So, and they've all had a strong tenure at the company. I think the shortest was 9 years. So it kind of comes down to who has the cleanest record. I guess is like what we're doing, but also who would best suit the future of the company as well, which I think are Franklin and Joan.
Yeah. Teresa, do you agree or do you have
Yeah, I
anything?
agree. Joanne seemed to have traveled more, and if they're looking to expand and reach out to different countries, I mean, she's been to 52 countries. She also speaks Japanese. She
Mm-hmm.
also was the head of the Federal Aviation Agency, so she has some experience, being the head of an agency. She's
Yeah.
been there a little bit longer than Franklin. He's only
Good
been
point.
there 11 and she's been there 15 years. Um, so, I mean, it's tooth and nail, but I would pick Joanna as number one just because she's been there a little bit longer and she has the experience of being the head of an agency. Um, and she's traveled a lot, so
Yeah.
that's a
And
that's a
speaks
big one.
Japanese, and we're trying to,
Yeah.
I'm not in
Mm-hmm.
this company.
Yeah, they're
Um,
trying to extend one to Tokyo as well. So I think that's
yeah.
A good key point there.
Yeah, so I would pick her as number one, and then Franklin as the backup.
Agreed. Because their home life too. Franklin has two teenage kids, daughters, where Joan has one is at West Point, so might be more independent, might be more flexible. Not saying that it's a con, but it's more of a separation of the two. Of one is still parenting, one seems to be a little bit more of a open nest or free nester. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm also not a parent, so if you guys have
Yeah.
kids, please let me
Me
know if
neither.
I'm please let me know if I'm being wrong
I'm
here.
and
No.
I hate traveling for work. I really try not to do it, and my company travels all the time, and I constantly say no just because I have a child. So when you're looking at someone who has kids, are they gonna want to travel? Especially teenage girls, they're probably, in some kind of extracurricular activity close to graduating, you know. He might not be as willing to travel, and she's traveled a lot, so obviously she wants to travel.
Yeah, and his wife is, working full time, so they must have to, I would assume, share responsibilities.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I have 5 children,
Oh,
and yeah,
Yeah.
um, the youngest is a senior in high school. The other 4 are out on their own. But unless you're absolutely detached from reality and just human emotions, you always want to be around your children as
Yeah.
much as
I,
you can. So that's why I think that's a good point that
I,
you
I
you
think I'm
raised.
making some of my assumptions on like TV shows like Succession or something, like where it's like all cutthroat and like nobody pays attention to their own kids and
But it's a great point. I mean, most parents want to be around their children. They don't want to be separated from them,
yeah.
especially during their formative years. And so I think that's a deeper. I think that's a great reason why Joanne would probably be
Yeah. Oh,
a
okay.
better
Yeah.
pick over Franklin.
Are we all ready to vote? I don't know. Should we keep the discussion going?
I thought we decided a long time ago.
We did.
Mhm.
It's like if we can say, okay, we're done.
Hey, Team Explorer Exchange, we rock it. We don't have to belabor the point. I mean, I think
Yeah. We cut out the people we knew we definitely didn't want. And then, yeah, we said the reasons why, some of the people, like number one, it's close to retirement. Number seven, he's sort of a mess. He's not very reliable. Yeah.
I think she has a deep understanding. I think of regulations, corporate governance,
She probably
uh,
knows people.
international affairs. She seems
Probably has a lot of connections.
she's probably innovative. She's probably very disciplined, and she'll have more of a I think a global perspective,
Should
which
we
will
take
help
a vote?
the company. I think. Um, we can take a vote.
I guess. Just
Yeah, just to put it all to rest, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know, raise your hand. If you vote for Joanne for CEO. There's five of us.
Mhm.
And then if you vote for Franklin as her alternate. All right, unanimous.
All right, I'll be coming back.
Hey,
Did we do it too quick?
that was perfect timing. You must have been listening to us.
I was watching everything. It was my screen still up there.
It
No.
just said Greg Bruce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a black screen.
Yeah.
When you see it on tape, I won't be there at all.
Okay.
Yeah, and before I start to discuss things, so you had Joanne and Franklin. I think the other group was reversed. But I do get all names. You didn't just really discuss the rest. You only really discussed two, maybe Robert. And
Mhm.
uh,
I think we discounted some people. Like Like right away, number
Watch,
7.
watch the rebroadcast.
Oh,
We kind of quickly went through the cons on people, like things that stood out that
Hmm.
immediately were like, all
Yeah,
right,
you did that somewhat.
yeah, we quit, and that kind of quickly dismissed some, I guess, some candidates for
yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Like I said, I had put up that I had made a little chart of all the
Told you not to
people.
over prepare there, Christine.
I had some time. I had some time between work, because I was like, all right, I got up at work like 5:30, and then I was like waiting for this. So I was like, let me read this.
It's funny, but anyway, uh, let me just step back and tell you the reason for this assignment, for this process. I really, I could have had a lecture on a lot of things, but I really, in this format, try to quickly put you in a group setting to make a decision. There's two things here that I'm looking at in this type of course is where are you when it comes to influence in a group setting? Because you're all going to be in group settings where there'll be various points of influence or not influence. Give you an opportunity to behave how you typically behave or don't. Then the second part of it, I wanted you to be able to sit back and then actually analyze the group dynamics using a couple tools. And I posted the assignment with the different tools and different things. I also posted a lot of handouts that I've found over the years to be quite beneficial. So there's a whole series of handouts I put in there that I've been collecting and using for years that I think you might find beneficial. I actually think that this is an area that you can master rather quickly and have great deal of influence in group settings if you understand a few things. And so that's kind of what the whole purpose of this is. So one to look at it from the point of view of just you and how you operate in a group. And what I'm asking you is to reflect on that. Uh, so with that, I'm going to ask you, what do you think you did well as a group?
We all
Well,
obviously read it beforehand because we were able to eliminate some of the candidates. So we
uh,
were all prepared.
what else do you think you did well as a group?
We also listened well to each person's opinion and made sure we all spoke and had their time to speak.
I
Yeah,
wondered about that, but we'll get back to it. Yes. What else did you do well?
I thought we were respectful of each other and our opinions and our thoughts, and um, for the most part, I mean, I felt that my voice mattered and that I could freely express my
Okay.
opinion. So,
Hmm.
and the team made me feel that way.
All right.
I agree because, there were some things that I thought I felt okay expressing the fact that like someone drove a motorcycle or piloted their own plane and that could be dangerous. I felt safe to say like this is a concern to me. What do you all think? Do you think this is a concern just to get a group consensus that maybe I was overreacting?
Okay.
I mean, to me, because we all read it, so obviously we were on the same page. But I feel like if we were to be given, something that we didn't have the time to prepare for, obviously we're gonna be, it's not gonna go as smooth. Um, Different opinions, might have some disagreements, of course.
Okay. Anything you could have done better, you think? Hey, I know it was a quick thing, and you're all new to each other. So I know all that going in. But anything you could have done better?
I think if we had time, we could have probably had like a whiteboard discussion and you know maybe listed each candidate and as a group list the pros and cons of each candidate and then do a more thorough analysis of each candidate's pros and cons. Um, if we had that time to do that. And sometimes in teams, there are ways you can establish that in teams. You can break out in groups. You can break
Yeah.
out into. But I think with more preparation, we probably could have done something like that, similar, and perhaps listed more of their pros and cons of each candidate. So we could have gotten to more of the nitty gritty of what each candidate brings to the table, and where we all as a group may feel there's some cons in hiring them.
There's a couple different ways. The One of the things I wondered about, Chris and Christine, your opinions of who the top two were came out pretty quickly. I had no idea who the others top two were, which was interesting going into it. And I assumed that they all went along with that. But as you say, these things do happen quickly. The other thing I want you to think about, you don't need to talk about it, is who influenced who influenced you in this group. Um, Part of this is really evaluation for yourself is in a group setting. Um, how are you in a group? How comfortable are you in a group? How comfortable are you speaking up, not speaking up? Group dynamics do influence a lot of different things. So that's one question to ask yourself about your own influence in a group. Let me just offer a little bit of a lecture here for the next few minutes or so. As I said, I think this is an area where you can gain some expertise, and even as a member of a group. And I like to focus it around two major issues. One is you're in a group and there was a purpose here, so you have to get the task done. You have to organize yourself in order to make a decision. So there's a whole series of activities and influence around how you go about it. You kind of listen to who speaks first. I can't remember quite, Chris. I think you may have said something in the beginning about how we should go about this. Were you saying eliminate people? Was that
Yeah. Well, first I started out by saying that the Eagles, it was a great victory for us in Philly in the parade. So we started out lightheartedly, and then yeah, we went in and I said, I just explained what I did, which was like quickly
okay?
go down and do the cons, try to
Try to
eliminate.
do the cons.
And
Yeah, that's what I did.
and
Yeah.
I yeah. Oh, I cut someone off
Go
again.
ahead.
And I said that I had made I had noticed that they put everyone's age, gender, race, career,
Right, right.
education. So I thought maybe either we could do like a table, like list them all so we could compare them easily, or we could first go through and say who we definitely thought wouldn't be a pick to just eliminate a few so then we could concentrate on some of the others.
So that's what I mean by getting the task done. So one question I didn't ask you was, everyone satisfied with the decision? You don't need to answer that or not, but in a group, you make group decisions. Is everyone satisfied with it, or aren't they, or etc.? So that's the other side of the equation, is the people. So you have the task, then you have the people, and the risk of not doing the task well is you don't get the job done. On the people side is, do people feel they were listened to? Was people given the opportunity to talk? Was there disagreement? How was the climate? All of those issues around the people side. In a lot of groups, the risk of not paying attention to the people side of the equation is that people can get pissed off, and you might make a decision, but people are going to sabotage it. So in any high functioning group, both of those elements are happening. There's good structure or good coordination, good process, but also the people side of the equation is taken care of. So that's kind of and I have given you a couple handouts where, and in the analysis I ask you to do, I ask you to look at both those sides. I gave you a process checklist that you could apply to your group. Was there shared leadership? How was the task done? All of that. So that's kind of how I want you to look at this, a series of questions. I think to be effective in a group, if you learn, and groups tend to operate in very structured ways. I mean, almost every group I've been in has these dynamic elements taking place. There's a couple books, I'm not sure if I referred to them. One is called The Five Dysfunctions of a Team, and another one I really like is called The Culture Code. And it talks about the elements, but you, as a group participant, can become an expert in the process. You can become an expert at recognizing if the task isn't proceeding, or you can become an expert in recognizing if people kinds of things are or not being taken care of. A couple times I noticed a couple people interventions like, hey, does everyone disagree with this? Is there anyone who disagrees? Those are all elements of the dealing with the people side of the equation. So I want you to watch for that. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at this with this exercise, to give you an activity to participate in where these elements come in and out. You know, and take a look at both sides of that equation. You pretty quickly went along with Chris and Christine in the beginning around the two characters, and then it kind of moved from there. That's kind of what I saw happening. But you can take,
Sorry.
but you can take a look at that tape as you play it back.
I think Cooper kind of said also, like, he said Franklin was his number
Right,
one. And
right.
then we kind of, said, oh, me too, me too. I don't know if maybe we shouldn't have done that.
No,
But
no.
I also felt like we reached out, I didn't know if maybe someone was being quiet because they agreed, or if they, had tuned out, or they agreed. And
No,
so that's why I personally asked.
just observe, all
Okay.
that and see, and that's part of it. Each group is slightly different in how they approach. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, I felt I liked at the end that we did a vote. So we
Yeah,
voted as a group
I like
uh,
that.
for our first and second. I think Christine came up with that. And my first choice was not the one that was chosen, and that was I based on I think Cooper or maybe uh, Semi's rationale. So we did have some disagreement. I don't think it was nobody was dominating the discussion. I don't think, and I don't think anybody was over analyzing it, but
Yeah, you moved along pretty well.
yeah, it was actually an enjoyable experience. I
Yeah.
thought.
Oh, I had fun watching you,
Yeah.
but I've been looking to read. As you get into look and analyze everything, that's the purpose of this,
Yeah.
and the whole thing. But so as I said, I threw the assignment up there, and then there's a lot of good handouts I put in there on this. It shouldn't take you that long to get the assignment done. I'm trying these last 3 weeks now. It's going to be pretty easy. The last couple weeks of the semester. I mean, you did the big paper, and if you're not all done with it, I understand. So a lot of the heavy lifting is done for the semester. Just pay attention to how you're dealing with the skill you're working on. But there's a lot that compacted into here in 8 weeks. So I've enjoyed it so far.
I think the exercise would have been a little bit harder if all the candidates were almost their backgrounds and everything was almost equal, and then we really had to look for something because some of them had some major things like excessive drinking, which tossed that
Well,
person out.
there's biases built into
Yeah,
every one of them has some biases that knocks them out. Someone was in psychoanalysis.
yeah.
almost every group doesn't like the last guy. I've had when I've been doing this, every person's been chosen of the six. The
Has anybody ever picked Ernest?
in we've been doing this kind of case for years and years. I think a faculty member at LaSalle wrote it years ago.
Okay.
We've been trying to keep it updated. I think I have to update it again. I have 2025, and Ernest was picked once as an alder, and that was in a live discussion. I had people who knew each other, and the person influenced the whole rest of the group to go with Ernest number two. It's only ever happened once.
Wow. That's a persuasive individual.
But every one of these cases kind of has a little bias to them. Biases shift over time, too.
So can I ask, as someone who's not been a CEO or had to be on a board, can you tell me, like, do they take all this into effect when they're into like consideration when they're picking a CEO, like your marriage, your kids?
I'm sure anyone who's up, people know all this stuff.
Yeah.
I would assume whether it's written explicitly or not, a lot of this stuff is probably known to people.
Okay.
Like the one guy just mentioned, his son is gay in the San Francisco scene, and
or Joanne dresses conservatively. I was immediately like, that's sexist. Like, so, or maybe I took it wrong. I don't know. They didn't say that for any of the men.
I know. Yeah, it's filled with biases in here, no doubt about it. All right. Anyone have any other thoughts or questions? What time? Oh, it's only 7:15. We don't. No, you guys finished pretty quickly. I was giving you till 7:15 to make a decision.
Oh, wow.
Let me think if there's anything else here. I've kind of hit the main points I wanted to hit. But I was telling if you feel the climate, there's an important concept in groups called psychological safety. You'll see groups talking about vulnerability. The best that 5 dysfunctions of a group, they talk about lack of vulnerability. What they mean is it what it's called the absence of vulnerability. What vulnerability means is you can be yourself in a group, that you are comfortable expressing your strengths and weaknesses. Most of us in a group setting don't. We kind of have a little bit of a facade, and but your best, highest functioning groups have an idea of both the strengths and weaknesses of each other, and that enables them to offer optimally. This book, The Culture Code, I mentioned, this guy looked at a number of teams that were high performance and what caused that. And one of the key points was this psychological safety. And what that means is people know each other so well, both their strengths and weaknesses. One of the groups was like SEAL Team 6. Another was a group of kindergarten kids. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Marshmallow Challenge.
Yeah.
That group. Have you heard of that, Teresa?
Yeah, I studied psychology before I came here.
And that's what led this guy to do the group. Why do kindergarten kids beat executives at this challenge? Why are their teams so cohesive? And that they beat CEOs and MBA students and everything at this Marshmallow Challenge. And he talked about the group dynamics that go on in that. And he found that same type of dynamics in other groups that were highly successful. And part of it is kindergarten kids aren't trying to impress anybody. They're pretty upfront with their strengths and weaknesses, everything. And they feel safe with each other. So those are two books I'd recommend: Five Dysfunctions of a Team and Culture Code. But I really do believe that that if you become aware of some of the things that happen in a group, especially in a group you're in, you can see them coming off track when either through coordination or organization types of issues. And on the people side of things, that goes without saying, people coming with hidden agendas and the political issues. And so there's the whole people side of it. And so you try and manage those two things toward getting an optimal solution. As I say, you run the risk if you ignore people sabotaging the decision later. And you run the risk if you're too people oriented of not getting anything done. That's what happens in academia. Everyone is so process oriented that it takes years to do things. And that's probably true of the government, why we don't like government a lot. Everyone has to be. So there's a balance you can strike. But you can become an expert at recognizing dynamics. There's another handout in there on the stages of group development, which is absolutely accurate. And most teams go through various stages to get to being high performing. So anything else anyone has?
In the book in chapter 9, I did find useful um, a section of unproductive roles in
Okay.
a group,
Yeah. Oh, yes.
and I working in healthcare, some of these categories stuck out to me, like stalling, uh,
Blocking.
yes,
Oh, we've
overanalyzing,
done it that way before.
yeah. There was a lot of good information in that. That was a great. That was It was a good chapter to read. Even all the section, all the information on feedback, even I thought was very informative.
I think I gave you a handout on three types of roles. One is task-oriented roles, another is people-oriented roles, and another one on blocking roles. I think
Hmm.
disruptive roles. Good point. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, because I mean, I know myself when I'm in a group setting and I'm trying to get something accomplished, and I have people within the group or meeting that are blocking for their own, whatever their reasons are. Uh, that's where I need work to help myself kind of come up with strategies to work around that.
I
That's why, yeah.
if I do an exercise in class, if we were in class, we actually come up with a group decision making, but I give all of you roles you have to play,
Hmm.
and they're all the roles you're talking about. And then I think I put the handout in there, interventions that you might have uh, for groups when you run into people like that. Some people you might have to deal with outside the group.
Yeah, yeah.
And with groups too, a lot has to do with the type of group it is. Is it a task group? Is it is it a creative group? Or it's so the different types of groups have different dynamics that happen. But those two elements of task and people always seem to come up. So the handouts I gave you, one is a process check, and the other one is it was taken from an article from Harvard from 50 years ago on process observation.